Hello, my name is Tomasz Poszytek, and in this video I would like to showcase you quite the latest addition to Power Platform ALM, so the Application Lifecycle Management, that is called the Power Platform Pipelines. And I know that I'm quite late to the party, that as of today, almost every community person who is doing videos has recorded their own introduction to the pipelines. And I know as well that that's quite a long break between my last video and this one. Nevertheless, I was quite busy, so sorry for that. And speaking about the pipelines, what I want to show you is obviously the introduction. However, at the end, I will share some of the insights that I gained already from using that, because I have already started and I'm using that in production scenarios. So stick with me until the end. And first I'll showcase you how it works and how you can configure it and how you can use it. And then I'll show you, or I'll tell you what I learned and what I'm missing in this function, in this feature. And then I know that this feature is still in preview, so it will be developed hopefully intensively over the next months. Although, that's just the introduction video. All right, so let's go to it. All right. So first thing you have to make when speaking about the pipelines is that you need to create a managed environment that is going to be a host for the pipelines. I have created one already, so I do have it and I have it configured. So after you have created this environment, and what you have to keep in mind is that as of today, pipelines are only working within the same region. So if you create your pipelines host environment in whatever, United States, but you have your prod, dev, test environments in other region, then you will not be able to create the pipeline. Furthermore, if you have prod environment and dev environment and test environment in different environments, then this is again a showstopper. So you are not able to create a pipeline that deploys solutions between environments which are hosted in different regions. So keep that in mind. All right. So now, once you have created this pipeline host environment, you need to navigate to it and you have to install the Power Platform Pipelines application. So because I have my application installed and configured in this environment, I'll just show you how this works in a different environment. So first, what you have to do is to open, you have to select or click this ellipsis icon and go to resources and then into Dynamics 365 apps. And then once you are here in Dynamics 365 apps, you need to hit the button to install new application and scroll down to Power Platform Pipeline. So this is the application that you have to install, right? Then you need to agree the terms of services and then hit install. Now, once this application is deployed, installed, and so on, you are ready actually to go. So the next step you need to do is to navigate to the environment where you have the application installed, and then switch to your apps. So navigate to make.powerapps.com, and then switch to apps. And under the apps, you will find this application called Deployment Pipeline Configuration, and that's the most that's the core of the pipelines. This is the place where you will going to configure all the environments that are taking part in your deployments, where you will create the pipelines, where you will share the pipelines, so where you will let others to use your pipelines, and so on and so on. Right. So this is the dashboard, and it shows you some basic overview of all the pipelines you have and all the deployments that have been created or have been done using those pipelines. The first step that you have to make is to add all the environments that you will want to use in any of the pipelines that you're going to create into this application. So first, hit the new button. And here you need to provide some information. So first you need to name this environment. Let's call it dev. Then you have to select what kind of environment is it. whether it's a development environment or a target environment. Let's say it's a development environment. Then you need to navigate to Power Platform Admin Center and grab the ID of that environment you want to add. So that's the environment ID that I need to copy and then add it to the app. And well, that's basically it. So right now you hit the save and close. And what is now going to happen is that the application is going to review, is going to check if this application, if this environment can be added to the application. So if it's in the same environment that the pipeline host is created, and that it's not, and that it's like whatever, having a database and so on. All right. So after a while, this validation status is updated, and usually it's going to be success, but under some circumstances, it might be a failure. So I have now the first environment. Now I can add the second one, which in my case is going to be the prod. Well, you can have obviously a test environment as well. So, I mean, you can create really like a pipeline that is built from like 4 environments or well, how many you want. So the second one is going to be my prod. And here I'm going to use the ID as well. And that's going to be a target environment. And what I can do is I can grab and add as well my dev environment. So here I have as well this developer environment, which I can use hopefully as my test environment. So then I'll just show you how you can create a pipeline that is built not from like 2 steps, but actually from 3 steps. Okay, so now I'll just add the third environment. Let's call it test. It's going to be as well this target environment because we are going to deploy from dev to test and then from test to prod. So we have like 2 target environments and 1 developer environment. Now, once this is done, let me just refresh. Yeah, like all those are successfully added. So right now you can go and create your pipelines. Now, creation of pipelines is not really complicated at all. Let's say this is going to be like dev, test, prod pipeline. All right. And then I'll just save it. So to create it. All right, so now I need to add this development environment. So that development environment is going to be the dev. All right. And with that, I can now create new deployment stage, which in this case is going to be dev to test. So there is no previous deployment stage, so I can't create or I can't use anything. But here I can select this target deployment environment. And in this case, what I will use is my test environment, right? So that's the first stage of the deployment that will move a solution from the developer environment into the test environment. And once it is created, I will then create a second deployment stage, which is going to be test prod. And there it will first get data from the previous deployment stage, so dev test, and it will move the solution to the prod environment, right? So with that, I have now a pipeline that is going to move a solution through from the dev environment into the test environment and finally into the prod environment. Now, once the pipeline is created, you might want to share it with other users because right now it will only be available for yourself. So the first thing you have to do when you want to share it you need to navigate back to the Power Platform Admin Center and back to the pipelines host environment. And in there, you need to double check, or well, you need to be sure that, let's go into users, that the user with whom you want to share this pipeline is being granted the deployment pipeline user security role. So I'll now try to share it with John Researcher, and let me see if that user is already granted that security role. So it's called the deployment pipeline user. And now this security role, you have to grant it to every user with whom you'd like to share that pipeline, and with whom or who you'd like to let to use the pipeline. Now, the deployment pipeline administrator security role is obviously the role that you need to grant to anyone who you would like to allow to navigate to the environment, to edit pipelines, to create new pipelines, to delete existing pipelines, and so on. What is important about the deployment pipeline user is that despite the fact you'll grant the user this security role, they are not going to see the pipeline host environment in the list of the environments they have an access to. So it is going to be totally transparent to them. The only reason why they need a security role is that we need to share that pipeline with them, and this is required to do that. All right, so now I'll save it. And that was the first step. So the first step was to grant this deployment pipeline user security role. And then the second step is to actually navigate back to the pipeline you have just created. And you need to hit the share button here and then manage access. And once this dialog window is loaded, you're just then able to type in name of the user with whom you'd like to share, and then pick them from the selection, right? So that's the John Researcher. And then read permission, well, that's the only permission you actually are able to share, is absolutely sufficient for the user to be able to use the pipeline and to, create deployments using that pipeline. All right, that's done. Okay, so now with that, I can now navigate to my Power Automate portal and just to create some basic test solution that will contain maybe a Power Automate cloud flow with some environmental variable and maybe a connection reference, and that I'll show you how you can actually deploy it to to other environments using the pipelines. Okay. And create. And now let's create like a new cloud flow. Maybe first this new environmental variable. Oops. I'll not save its current value, or maybe I'll just set and then remove it, because it has to be, it has to be empty before you make a deployment, right? So the environmental variable cannot have any value, because if it does have a value, then it will simply be moved over to another environment, and we want to have this. We want it to be empty so that it is being set per environment. All right. The next step is to create a cloud flow. Let's say it's going to be instant cloud flow. Just a test one. Oh, I'm just doing so many errors today. Yep. Create. And well, let's say this flow is going to send an email. Yep. All right, so here I have this connection reference that is just a mail. Let's send this to myself. Use that variable here. And that's done. So with that, I have a Cloudflow that sends an email and that uses environmental variable and that has a connection reference as well defined. So in the end, the solution I'm going to deploy is going to be, let's say, built, or it will consist like 3 elements, right? So the flow, the variable, and the connection reference. And that's done. So right now I'm able to navigate to pipelines. And at the pipelines, I will see a list of all the pipelines I have an access to, and with information about the stages that this solution is going to go through before it reaches the production. One important thing that I learned as well when working with this new feature is that if you're using different accounts in your dev environment and then a different account to deploy a solution to test or prod environment, then unfortunately you are not able to define like dynamically which account should be used to deploy the solution from dev environment to prod environment or to test environment. Like which account should be used to deploy the solution in that specific stage. So it will always use the account that you're signed in. When speaking about the DevOps deployment, DevOps ALM, there you are able to actually define which connections should be used when the deployment is being done. So if you do use a different account in your prod environment, then with DevOps, you are able to simply use that account's connections. However, here, it will always be deployed in the context of the signed-in user. So after you deploy to production, it will again be deployed by you, and so it will use your connections. What I mean is, if in prod environment you would like to use connections created by the system account, you need to sign in to your dev environment and make a deployment with the system account. All right, so let's now hit the button deploy here, and let me navigate you through the steps. So first is the step where you need to select deployment target, because this solution hasn't been yet deployed to the test stage, test environment. Therefore, I'm not able simply to choose whether I want to deploy to test or prod, because, well, it first has to go to the first stage. Now, on the second screen, after all the validation is going to be completed, so let's just wait a second. Yeah, now it's validating the solution if it's able to be deployed. Whoops, there is something missing. So it's saying that I'm missing a dependency. All right. Let me just scroll back and just see what am I missing. So the test flow, the some test file. All right. What am I missing then? Okay, I'm using a different environment variable, and it's coming from a managed solution, so I can't simply get it in here. That is my bad. So I'll simply need to change the environment variable, because I selected the wrong one actually. So I shouldn't use this env test. I should use some test var, right? That's the environment variable I should use. Okay, so now I hope no dependencies are missing. Let's go back to the pipelines and again deploy here. Next. And now after the validation is complete, because this variable is not having any value and it has not yet been deployed to the test environment, therefore I will need to define its value in that environment, and as well to sign in, right? So to create a connection reference. And now what I'm saying is that here you are using this connection that is created. There is this button to switch account, although you are not going to switch to a different account. You can only switch through connections created by this account in that target environment, right? And the next step is to define the value for this variable that you will use in the target environment, so in the testing environment. And then simply, once everything is complete, you can confirm it, you can hit the button deploy, and now the deployment is going to take place. It will take some time, I guess around the same amount of time as it would if you're doing that manually. So you have to export it and then import it. And let me simply navigate back to solutions. And what I will do is I will switch to my environment, and I'll just wait until the deployment is done. Oops, sorry, it was here. All right, and now it has been deployed. So once I navigate to this test environment, that is actually my developer environment, there I will be able to see that there is indeed this test pipeline solution that has just been created a minute ago, and everything is fine. And now, because this is already done, I am now able to make another deployment, so I can grab this solution that has been deployed to the testing environment and then deploy it to the prod environment. So right now I am able to hit the button to deploy this solution to prod environment. So in this scenario, I am going to use the last stage. And then again, because this solution has not yet been deployed to that prod environment before, this is the first time it's being deployed. Therefore, I'm again I need to again select the connections that I will use for the connection reference and set the value for the variable that is going to be created after deployment. And again, after I review all this information, I am able to hit the button deploy, and then again see how all this deployment is going on, right? Now, meanwhile, while this deployment is in a process, I'm able to navigate back to the application, so that the deployment pipeline configuration application, and here in the dashboard, I'm able to see some of the information that is showing me how my pipelines are performing in my Power Platform environments. So I know that I have these prod and test pipelines. I know how many of these runs there were. There is as well this run history, so it shows me how many of those they were failed, succeeded, and so on, because I tried so many times to deploy to the testing environment, and I was facing that issue with the dependency missing. So all these attempts where the dependency was missing were counted as failed. Now there is one that is being started, one succeeded, right? So one started, one succeeded, and this is all this overview of all the pipelines that have been triggered and used in my environment. Again, right now I see that already the deployment to production environment is successful because it has been succeeded. I can refresh this graph as well just to see that there is one deployment to production. There were these 5 attempts to test environment. There is one left over because that environment has been deleted, so there is nothing. And then once I again navigate back to my pipeline, I'll see that again it has just succeeded and it has just been completed. So again, once I switch to the prod environment in my Power Platform environments, I see that there is indeed a test pipeline solution deployed. So with that, what I can say is that this is everything that I had to show you. So you were able to see how the Power Platform pipelines are working in action, how you can create environments, how you can create pipelines, how you can create stages in pipelines, and how you can share these pipelines with your employees. Now, the things that I wanted to share with you, I actually shared them through the video. Although what is important and what you have to remember is that this feature is in preview. And by that, it's not yet, let's say, totally perfect, and it doesn't contain, or it doesn't allow you to perform all these steps that you would be able to do with DevOps, or that you possibly could do even manually. Now, things that I'm really missing are: you are not able to create a pipeline that makes a deployment between environments which are hosted in different regions, and you're not able to create a pipeline that is in a different region than that the host environment is. That's the first thing. So the geolocation is an issue. The second thing is that if you'd like to deploy to an environment using a different connections, a different account connection, different accounts connections, you cannot simply select that account during the deployment process. You have to sign in with that account to the dev environment or to the environment from which you are deploying the solution, so that the context of that account is being used for the connections and then for the connection references. So these are the two main downsides that I see as of today when speaking about the Power Platform pipelines, when comparing them to DevOps actually. However, this one is really meant for all, and it's much easier to configure and much easier to create. And just one last thing that you have to remember is that the production environment that you're going to use in your pipelines, it will have to be a managed environment. And what it means is that the users who are going to be deploying that environment are going to need to have the premium license assigned, all right? Because the managed environments require all the users who have access to them, to have the license. So these are the three information, the three facts, or the three takeaways from what I learned when using the pipelines in the productive scenarios so far. Thank you very much for watching, and I really count on your comments and on your feedback. So thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and as always, until the next time, which I hope will be soon. Bye.